Oh, no, sorry. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Newcastle Fans TV. Me and Fordy are just talking about why I'm wearing a nice shirt. So you hear a little giggles beforehand, that's why. We're here for scoring the players after Newcastle, believe it or not, have drawn again. It's their 5th draw already this season. 1 win, 1 defeat, and 5 draws so far. For Eddie Howe's side so far in the Premier League, we've got Mr. Clinton Ford. Nice to see him. We've got Lee Lawler as well. And it's brilliant to have them both here. I'll tell you what's also brilliant. OneFootball. Get the app. We're just literally looking at the scores. I'm literally just looking at the scores now. Tottenham 2, Leicester 1 is a latest score. Newcastle target. Yuri Tielemans got on the score sheet for Leicester. So OneFootball will just tell me that he scored a fantastic penalty as well. But it's about scoring the players' time. Lee, I'll start with you. Nick Pope did absolutely nothing apart from pick the ball out of his net, touched the ball twice, maybe from 2 shots straight at him, and watched the game like everybody else. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm going to score my 6. I think it's just was he a fault for the goal? I've only had one look at it, but I can't really say that's his fault. Philip Billings just poaching, and I don't think his defenders helping him out. What else did he have to do? He didn't have anything else. Picked the ball out the back of the net. He had a couple of crosses, a couple of threats from corners, but it was a really quiet afternoon for Nick Pope. So I think I'm going to get the easiest one of the lot. Yeah, 6 out of 10.
Moving to the defence, 40. 4 at the back. Matt Target, a left back. Before we go on the goal, because I know you've had the benefit of seeing the goal properly. Like me and Lee, I've only seen it once briefly in terms of Bournemouth's goal. I just felt today, attacking-wise, he didn't give us a great deal today.
Who's that?
Matt Target. I don't think he gave us a lot attacking-wise.
He never does. And I'm going to go back to my comment about BTEC Paul Dummett. Like, it's the same. He's a steady pair of hands at the back. Cool, that's fine. Doesn't venture past the halfway line. But there's a reason why we never go to that side in terms of attacking threat. It was always down the right-hand side, always down Trippier's side, Bournemouth's left-hand side.
But Trippier is more attacking-minded than Matt Target. We've got to
switch it both sides because there was no plan B. It was not working. We wasn't beating the first man every single time. It was frustrating to watch. It was playing in triangles, get it to Trippier or get it to Willock, cross into the box, doesn't beat the first man. Why not switch to the other side? Maybe that's the reason why, because again, attacking-wise, he hasn't got that threat going forward, and that's what we need, both sides.
What mark? Because Lee's probably badgering you for a mark.
Oh, sorry. Lee put up a 1. I don't know if he meant 1 minute or not, but I won't give him a 1, but probably a 5. And that's being generous.
I think for me,
defensively sound, sorry, but again,
I think defensively he's been sound pretty much 95% of the time in a Newcastle shirt. I just like to see him a little bit more in terms of attacking. Although Ryan Fraser didn't help him out today, I have to be honest.
I was going to say as well, to add to it, like he did give the ball away that ended up with the ball in the back of the net. So read into that what you will.
I think that's part of the reason why Newcastle conceded a goal. I just think it was really, really poor defending all out.
Yeah.
But we'll move into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
First centre half, Dan Burn came back in for Sven Botman. He did have a little niggle that was released by the press Saturday morning. He was still on the bench, but wasn't risked. Like I said, Foley had a debate on the last video saying is that the strongest pairing, and I do say Dan Burn is versatile, and it does help when you have someone like him. I didn't think he was at fault for the goal today because it wasn't really from his side. So I'll give him a 7 out of 10 today. I think for me, we're comfortable with Dan Burn, we're comfortable with Sven Botman, we're comfortable with Fabian Schär. Even Jamal Lascelles really hasn't done too bad in a Newcastle shirt this season. I would argue that he had a really good performance against Liverpool. So centre halves, in my opinion, haven't really been the issue. It's further forward. So I think that's more of a debate that we need for today.
You know what I would like a little bit more of him from Dan Burn? So like attacking fit from corners and set pieces.
Yeah, that's his weakness. He's great at defending, but in the final third, he's got a 50-pence head.
I think be aiming for him every single time.
Yeah, they should be going for him.
I think
that's Peter Crouch is no taller, is he?
Well, there's not much in it. I think he's maybe an inch in it. But the one thing I would say is that, exactly. The one thing I would mention though, Botman does seem to be a little bit better in the air in terms of attacking sense than Burn. So there's arguments for and against for whoever you put in there. But I thought Burn was fine today. I thought Dominic Slightly barely gave Newcastle any problems today. Lee, I'll let you talk about Fabian Schär. You've called him the elegant man. Is he a little bit at fault for the goal? Because you look at that terms of that actual area that Billing comes in. It's between Trippier and Schär, and it's not the first time we've seen it this season. I'm thinking Man City and Gundogan.
I don't think it's just him. I think Trippier's out of position, which doesn't help him, to be honest with you. I think Trippier's back. I think that goal doesn't happen. I think Trippier's just too far in advance. And then Fabian Schär's got like a runner coming past him. So I'm not going to put the blame on Fabian Schär for the goal. I'm going to score him 6 out of 10. I think that's fair. And to be honest, he was actually the one coming from a defence thinking, you know what, no one else is doing anything. I'm going to try and have a hit. He had a goal once or twice, and
I don't blame him for that.
Was anyone else trying to do anything?
Ran out of ideas.
We don't have a goal scoring midfielder, which again, that's another video for another debate further down the line. But I'm not putting the finger all on him. I think he was left vulnerable by Kieran Trippier. 6.
Thought I'll let you continue then with Kieran Trippier, the captain. Had a free kick, hit the post, a bit unlucky. Yeah. It was almost the way he wanted it against Manchester City, wasn't it? On the keeper's side, but I think again that's a foot further in on the right his right hand side. That's going in the back of the net. The keeper isn't getting there, in my opinion. So the argument is defensively, how good is he in terms of the top right backs? Because there's no doubt going forward he is a real threat. Do you agree? Do you think maybe that he was at fault for the goal today in terms of after you talk about target error?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that one. Like that's his one weakness, is his defensive capability, and obviously that is a big weakness considering he is a defender first. But again, in terms of what it gives you going forward, oh my God, like as you said, the free kick, one of our better opportunities that narrowly missed out, and just his leading from the back. Even when I'm just seeing him just pointing. Pass there. That's the sort of stuff that we're missing. That sort of leadership at the back. Because I'm not seeing it from a Schär, maybe get it from a Dan Burn per se, and then like Matt Targett's he's a bit on the quiet side. But I just felt like going forward, this is where we needed that little bit of quality. Because as I was saying before, you can watch the whole 90 minutes back. I had the pleasure of watching the whole 90 minutes. It was just always down that one side.
Give me a score, 40. Give me a score.
I'll give you a 6.5 out of 10. Because it's considering if you gave Schär a 6, yeah?
Yeah, I give Schär a 6.
So I'll give him a 6.5. Maybe Badger on a 7. But again, Trippier.
I hate these 0.5s. I hate these 0.5s.
Have a 7. Have a 7 then. Have a generous 7.
He's already put it in though.
I put it in there. Cool. It's all about putting it in.
But yeah, it is. But yeah, just needed that extra end product, like to get the ball in the back of the net, or just to get the ball in the box, let alone in the back of the net. And that's what was missing from that side. We
were. I think the one thing I would say is that he got an assist, if you want to call it that, in terms of the penalty. This is maybe why you could have knocked him a little bit higher. But again, he's head and shoulders our best right back at the football club, and it's one of those things that's happened today. But hopefully we can move on. Hopefully he doesn't get injured for England. Hope he doesn't even play. Let's be honest. So happily don't mind him being in the squad. Just don't play. Midfield, who do I have? I'm gonna start with Joe Willock, because me and Harry had a little bit of debate on the match reaction and also on the last word, which are coming later. The match reaction will come after the score and the players, because I've completely forgot to upload it while we've been in the air. So that'll come on a little bit later.
Good job, I've got great Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so it'll take about 5 seconds to do. But in all seriousness, Joe Willock, people will be frustrated with his performance. But I'd argue he had a better performance than Joe Linton today. I know Joe Linton had a clear-cut chance and hit the post. But for me, Joe Willock wasn't afraid to get the ball. He brings it forward. I thought Joe Linton was out-battled at times today. And I'll let Lee talk about Joe Linton in a second.
Oh, well, I'll join in that.
I was going to give you Bruno just because obviously
you love
Bruno.
Him.
Yeah.
But I thought Joe Willock, yes, it wasn't his best game in a black and white shirt. But I just think he wasn't as bad as what people are going to make out. I just think that position is always kind of going to be under threat because Bruno and Gillett and maybe Shelby to an extent are going to are the three main ones. So that Willock's maybe him and Sean Longstaff are kind of contesting maybe with an extra midfielder. But I'm going 6 out of 10 for Willock today, and maybe slightly generous, but I don't think he was that bad. I thought he actually linked up well with Almiron. I think he was times he was trying to link up with Isak, and Isak, it just didn't really fall in the right places. But I do say this, he gives us something a little bit different that other midfielders can't do. And the fact he's quite leggy, he can run with the ball, and he has an eye for a goal. Obviously, the shot that he had today just wasn't anywhere near good enough today. Lee, Joe Linton had 2 good opportunities. One that was straight at the goalkeeper, another one that hit the post. But I go back to it. I thought he was out-battled today by Bournemouth's midfield. I thought they'd done well.
Can I
on
just
today.
talk about his touch before you get on? Because his touch was atrocious at times. Like, Joe Linton's touch is so heavy, so baggy. Like, there's that one time in the first half where he tried to push it around. Is it Tavinia or whatever his name is? Yeah. And it's just his touch. Like, if he had a better touch, I don't know what Eddie Howe has him working on in training, but his touch is so baggy.
I think it was just this one game, because I actually think his touch has improved under Eddie Howe. I take your point in the sense that it's a bit hit and miss, but his goal scoring is the biggest thing. You know, we talk about getting a good shot on target, and he's had 2 shots on target today. He hit the post, had one straight at the goalkeeper. But again, I'm going back to it. I thought Bournemouth done a number on him today.
I said to you this before. I think Bournemouth defensively handled our midfield easily. Defensively, I'm talking about, not defensively, because Bournemouth didn't really offer much going forward. But Lewis Cook protected the midfield, so did Philip Billen. Christie was dangerous on the ball as well when he was coming in. So I think all of our 3 midfield got out battle, but I disagree slightly. I'm going to score Joe Linton a slightly better version. I'm going to score him a 6.5. I think he was slightly better than Willock, because you talk about people trying to get in the box. At least he was trying, and he didn't. Since Joe Linton's moved back into midfield, you don't see him breaking it in the box as much. That's probably one of the most I've seen today. We need to see more of it. So you had that double chance where hits the post, comes back out, keeper saves, and then Fraser bends one and the keeper saves it. And then he had one in the second half. More of that, get in the box a little bit more. You know, yes, he can bring the ball forward, and he's got that big unit. We know that's his strength. How will let's get in the box? So we don't really have anyone that's breaking in the box. We don't have a Frank Lampard type of player. But, you know, you could get on the end. Look at the size of him. But I'm going to slightly disagree. I'm going to score him a 6.5 because he was getting the chances, and he's the only midfielder that was. Yeah,
definitely. The final man in that midfield, just before I should mention, One Football have just flashed. There's been a 4th goal at the Spurs-Leicester game, and it's an equaliser for Leicester. Newcastle target, James Maddison this time with the goal for Leicester, so 2-2 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, not a million miles away from 40. Bruno Guimarães was back in a black and white shirt. By God, we needed him. First things first, what would you mark him, and how good was it to see him in a black and white shirt?
So Lee gave him a 6.5.
Yeah.
Joe Linton, so I've got to go 7. I'm not trying to one up, but again, he was the better out of the 3 for me, in my opinion. And again, second question, thank God he's back. And thirdly, Eddie Howe, it's criminal to take him off.
I agree, and we'll touch on about that in a second. But when we talk about Eddie Howe, but just going back onto Bruno just ever so slightly.
Yeah.
For people that don't watch Bruno in the flesh, what do they miss out? What do Newcastle's midfield miss out when he's not playing?
It's just, you know what it is? It's just that calm and at ease at the ball, on the ball. Even when we're in our own half and we're trying to do these like tiki-taka triangles, I'm like, okay, Bruno's at it, it's all right. You can turn away, it's fine. It's just that bit of quality that we haven't got there. It's just hard to describe. It's like he doesn't. It's not
the extra level, isn't it?
Yeah, he's not full of like tricks and flicks like a Saint-Maximin. But again, he's just like at the base. He controls the play. And again, if we had him further forward, it'd be dangerous. That's why I think we're just. It's annoying that we haven't got a player to replace him. If we got a DM in January or whatever, then we can move him further forward and let him really unleash. But again, he's just the next level. And I always keep worrying that if we keep playing this way, we're going to end up losing out on him because...
Just got a message from Irish guy here. Says there, sorry, Clinton, I've lost the key. Looks like you're sleeping outside tonight.
No way. Well, it looks like I'm staying in here tonight. Yeah, it's just that next level. We just need to make sure that we just need to make sure that we keep him. That's just throwing me off there. I ain't got a bed for the night.
That's another story for another video on another channel. Subscribe to the Irish guy. Another guy that reminds me of the Irish guy is Miguel Almiron, because he does a lot of tricks and flicks, but does fuck all with it going forward.
Oh. Johnny, no way, shots fired. You can't fire shots at Irish guy.
No, he's all right. Miggy's a little bit better.
Ramsey, just in case you're watching, it wasn't me who said that. Be nice to me when you make a video about Newcastle YouTubers. Be nice to me.
Get me on camera. I'll say it at the webcam
because he'll clip it up now.
Of course he will. See you a week on Monday. I'm expecting your best at 5-a-side.
This is all him.
Miguel Almiron for me is very, very frustrating. Ryan Fraser is very, very frustrating. But because of the options that we had, I would have started both Miguel Almiron and Ryan Fraser today, which just tells you exactly where we are in terms of depth of our squad, in terms of when Saint-Maximin's not available. But for me, Miguel Almiron gets a 5 out of 10 because his final ball will always let him down. He just doesn't look up. He doesn't look where his options are in the box. How many times he gets into good positions and then it ends up being a corner, a goal kick, straight to the keeper.
Welcome.
Oh.
He's calm. He's petite sexy. I told you.
No,
I told you eventually.
Just to, not that I'm sticking up for him, because I've been critical of him. So he's the worst player on the pitch so far?
Yes.
Because everyone else is 6 upwards.
Yes. What's cost us today from getting 3 points are attacking players, and that is why Miguel Almiron, and I hope you mark the same for Ryan Fraser, because they did nothing between them really. Ryan Fraser had 1 shot on target, 1 shot off target, and he should have done better with that second shot in my opinion. But going back onto Miguel Almiron, we know he works hard, we know he gets into good spaces, we know he makes good runs. But he needs to be getting assists. He needs to be getting goals. We've been talking about this for a while. And again, the reason probably why I'm marking him a little bit lower, look who we were up against. The bookies had Bournemouth as the odds-on favourites to get relegated. It's got to be 3 points.
He should be turning him a new one.
He should be, but he did. I thought he was
no right foot at all. Well, that's the other thing.
He was okay today, and that's why he gets a 5 out of 10 because it's Bournemouth. He's okay against Manchester City. Probably gets a 7 or an 8, but because he was okay today, just shows where we are in terms of our depth. He just doesn't do enough, and he needs to be getting goals and assists against teams like Bournemouth, in my opinion. Get in the comments as well if you agree, disagree. Like this video as well, which would be really, really grateful because we could do with some likes after watching that today. Lee, Ryan Fraser had a good shot on target, good save by Neto. Had a big chance in the second half, though.
Yeah, what was it? Just after half-time, wasn't it? The bottom corner. I'm going to score him a little bit higher, but not much. 5.5 because he's in them. He did make the goalkeeper make a great save in that first half because that was curling top corner. But I prefer Fraser over Almiron. I do.
I agree.
I prefer, but it's it doesn't say a lot. But I think it's because Fraser's first thought normally is right. I'm going to get the ball and whip it in. And I like that.
So who are we whipping it into? This is what I don't understand.
I don't think Isaac's quite clued up on that sense of
which is understandable,
Wilson.
Which is going to be my point.
Yeah,
clear for 40.
But I think Wilson, because obviously he's worked with Fraser, knows what's going to happen. Whereas Isaac, I think, still learning about his players and movement. Because for me, Isaac's got to go front post every time. Although he scored, we'll come on to him later. I don't think he had a great game, but he scored. That's strikers are judged by goals, but. Yeah, 5.5. Get ASM back as soon as possible, and let's Fraser and Miggy battle it out for that right wing position.
We've got some news on ASM, which we'll mention when we're talking about Eddie Howe in terms of when he could be back in a Newcastle shirt. Same with Callum Wilson as well. Callum Wilson wasn't involved, so it was Alexander Isak who started again. We obviously mentioned 2 weeks ago how he needed to score against Crystal Palace when he had the opportunity. Good thing is he's got a set of bollocks on in 40 because he went and gone, give me that ball, I want to take this penalty. Fantastic penalty. Couldn't have put it anywhere near the corner. Really, really good penalty.
Yeah.
But generally a quiet afternoon for him today. But stats will say 2 goals in 3 games.
Yeah. We're stat padding now. Is that what we're doing?
I've got something to us.
Yeah. I mean, look, you still got to put the ball in the back of the net, regardless if it's a penalty or not. And again, like you said, the penalty is fantastic. Send the keeper the wrong way. I just felt there was one opportunity in the first half when he should have been a bit dishonest, if you like, when he was in the box and then the players committed. Go down. I don't know.
Is he still learning his trade though in the Premier League? Not necessarily in top leagues of football, but with the Premier League is a little.
Yes, he is.
It's different, isn't it?
It's 20. Was he 22?
22.
There you go. Yeah, but just then, sort of the opportunities there, like go down. I don't care. Like get a yellow for that, but. I don't know. Obviously, he wanted to be the honest person and stay on his feet. But
Paul makes a great point in the comment. I thought he was lost the battle in the air. A lot of times, the physical part.
I don't think he's that sort of player. That's what I'm saying. So when we was going back to what you were saying about Fraser, putting the ball in the box, for who? But we haven't got Chris Wood on at the time.
There was one or two actually. And I'd take Paul's
We're
point.
getting a lot of love. I think Sam started something off in the comments. Are you going on a date? And then people are saying Johnny looks delicious. And someone called Tony. So that admirer there.
What can I say? What can I say? It's my normal clubber. No, in all seriousness though, I felt that with Isak, I think it was a Paul that mentioned on the comments about him losing battles in the air. There was actually one or two that he did win in the first half. I remember one because he got knocked to the head, but Newcastle did
a couple of times, didn't he?
Yeah, so I do think he has gotten this. Like, he's 6'4" as well. I think it was Harry said it last week. He just needs a bit of meat in him. I think as I can see Les Ferdinand, like a picture of Les Ferdinand next to Lee. He's a bit of like what Les Ferdinand is. You look at that picture, he's full of muscle, isn't he?
Lean, yeah.
Yeah, he's lean, but he's full of muscle. Lee's going to show the picture in a second. There you go.
So Les.
My dog's named after this bloke.
No, it's not Les, it's Ferdinand.
Who's your hero, 40?
Come on,
we've got Les Ferdinand. A lot of love in the house here for Les. Big Les. Smash that like everybody.
What would you give Isak today?
Oh gosh. Well, he did score a penalty, so 6.5, 7. Is that pushing 7, you reckon?
It's your score, not mine.
6.5. Like, he was quiet. Obviously, he did score the equaliser, but it was a penalty. But, he wasn't the worst player on the pitch. So 6.5.
I would love to see him with Wilson. I think that'll be interesting because I think that could really flourish. But we'll see what happens with that one. On the bench, again, it wasn't the strongest bench. Botman was on the bench, but he didn't come on just because I think they were just resting him because obviously the niggle that we've mentioned. But Jacob Murphy and Sean Longstaff were the two players that came on. I'm not going to rate Chris Wood because he came on in the 89th minute. However, Jacob Murphy, Sean Longstaff was first. He was fine. I think the problem is I don't agree with Bruno being substitute, but that's more for Eddie Howe. But
you're speaking so much sense today. I like this.
Are you still getting on this week?
I think so.
Do you know what it is though? All I'm saying that shirt.
It's got to be wear this shirt more often, man.
River Island. No, I feel sorry for Sean because when you come on for Bruno, it's like, but I don't think Sean did a lot wrong. I think he was just passing the ball from side to side. Made a really good block, actually. I should mention that.
You got to ask yourself, what is he offering? Instead of Bruno.
But that's Eddie Howe to deal with, not Sean Longstaff. But you got to just mark Sean Longstaff what he did. I'm going to go 6 because I don't think he did. He didn't do anything extraordinary. He didn't do anything poor. He was just there to do what pretty much Bruno was going to do, pass the ball from side to side. The only difference is Sean can't do what Bruno can in certain areas of the pitch in terms of delivering that pass, that world-class pass, in my opinion. But again, I'm not going to be heavily critical on Sean Longstaff today. It was certainly the reason why we didn't win today. Lee, Jacob Murphy, just about borderline worth a mark. Quiet again, wasn't he?
I feel like a broken record every fucking week. I mean, look off the bench. You've got no John Joe Shelby, you've got no Callum Wilson, no ASM. Bruno was back today, great, but it's the same substitutions every week, and it's just it's like we're bringing off quality. Yes, there might be tired tactics and whatever, but it's not as strong on the bench, is it? Let's face it. That's not a criticism of Eddie Howe. It's just what he's been dealt with previously. So you've got a championship winger who kind of finish. You've got a championship winger who has a half decent cross, got a bit of pace about him, but he's got no final end product. I can't even find Jacob Murphy on here, to be honest with you.
Go non-applicable if you want then.
He is on this list somewhere, but I'll score my 5.
Let's move on to the manager. We'll all try and agree on this, Mark, but Fordy, I'll let you start with your opinion on Eddie Howe today. In terms of the starting 11, if that's who he had available, and Botman had a niggle, and he didn't, and Wilson wasn't quite ready, and Maxi's not quite ready, it was probably the starting 11 we kind of expected then.
Yes, look, the starting 11 picks itself in this situation. No ASM, no Callum Wilson. So again, those changes pick themselves. So you can't fault him on that. My problem is, and it's going back to my Crystal Palace comment, and I think you might agree with this, is that he had no plan B. Like, I know we've got not a lot of options off the bench, but this is where you got to be creative.
Should have plan A been good enough to beat Bournemouth?
It should be, but again, if it's not, this is the games where we need to be picking up points. Again, it's another 2 points drops. That's 4 points dropped at home. We go gung-ho at home, and then this is when we're away at Old Trafford and Anfield, part of the bus, cool, take a point all day long. But at home, against Bournemouth and Palace, no, sorry. You got to change it up. Start waiting to the 88th minute or whatever to bring Chris Wood on. If that's all we got, put Wood and Isak up front together. Try that for a little bit longer than 2 minutes. What is 2 minutes going to grab you? 2 minutes going to do nothing. If you got Bruno, a fit Bruno with 2 working legs and a heart working well, keep him on the pitch for 90 minutes. Why are you bringing Sean Longstaff on? The only time I'll bring on Sean Longstaff is maybe put Sean Longstaff back so he can get it from deep and then push Bruno further up the pitch. That's changing up. That's a plan B. I'm not having all this change like for like. It's boring. It's getting predictable. All throughout the game, you can watch it again, people. Always down the same side. Always down the same side. It was getting predictable. Oh, it's going to Trippier again. Oh, it's going to Willett down again. But again, can't even get past the first man. This is where it lets him down. And I'm sorry, I'm all Eddie Howe's black and white army, but at the same time, this is our bread and butter. This is where we need to be picking up points, 3 points at that.
Before Lee puts his final mark in, what mark would you give an Eddie Howe?
5, and that's a generous 5. Defensively, fine, that's cool. But again, attacking going forward let us down today.
Lee,
I just want to say something about the comments. I think a lot of you in the comments are just jumping and saying, get Eddie Howe out. I think you just need to take a little look at yourselves in the comments.
I didn't say that.
No, not you. There's a couple of people.
Right,
there's a couple of people in the comments, and feel free to bite back at me. But a couple of you are saying, get Tuchel in and get Eddie Howe out. I think you just need to calm yourselves doing a bit. Yes, we didn't win today, but we're 1 defeat in 7. And that team was
8 in all competitions.
That was against Liverpool in a dodgy added minutes, which we were at Anfield. But I think just go back a little bit. Let's just reflect a little, because no, Eddie Howe doesn't need to go.
Can I ask? I think the question that Eddie Howe out brigade, if there is one, because that's an absolute, it's disgusting and disgraceful in my opinion. However, the question I'd asking Eddie Howe, what was the plan going forward today? Because we ran out of ideas in 2/3 of Bournemouth's half. It just seemed that we got to a certain point, what do we do here? We don't know what to do. What was that plan today, do you think, Lee?
Well, you disagreed with me in 40 last week, didn't you? 2 weeks ago, and it's deja vu again.
Don't worry, it's coming around.
No. But I'm saying, but the question is, not even before substitutions could be made, we were already running out of ideas in the first half.
So if you're running out of ideas, okay, that's where the finger then has to go at the manager. Look, I want Eddie Howe to stay. I wanted Eddie Howe in. Eddie Howe is not going anywhere. So I think you just need to take a little step back from people in the comments who are saying, get him out. Because it's very early in the season. It's literally midway through September. I think be brave a little bit more. Go up top. Even if it's not Chris Wood, put Joe Litton. Joe Litton has played there, although he's not great. It's an improvement. Maybe you can go 3 at the back. Just change it up a little bit. Don't go like for like. The argument, which I know you might come onto there, Johnny, is that the personnel off the bench is shocking. It is. But as I said to you 2 weeks ago, if it's Dylan Stevenson sat on the bench, there's a striker not being used, put him up top, what's the worst can happen? So that's my only problem. I think the performance today wasn't as strong as Palace, but I still think marginally we should have got away with 3 points, because I think there's a stat of 70% possession. We've got to do something when we've got the ball. So if you're taking Bruno off, maybe it's because of injuries, maybe it's match fitness, we'll never know. That's the only thing that I'll stick up for Eddie Howe, is that I can think that he's doing that. I don't think he's just taking them off thinking, I see Sean Longstaff on the bench. Let's do it. Course not. A different kind of level. There's a elite player there and there's a championship player there. I'm sorry, but there's a championship player there. He's not ever going to be any more than that. As much as he's a local lad, he's nowhere near a Premier League player. And we miss John Joe Shelby, which someone else has said in the comments as well, massively. And he gets a lot of stick. But we just didn't have enough from out wide. We've got a striker who's new to the game. Yes, he scored 2 and 3, but you'll get better with games and that ounce of go run into the 6-yard box. If we were all critical of Joe Linton, that's where Wilson's really, really strong. So my rating for Eddie Howe is I'll have to match 40 and give him 5 out of 10 today.
I agree with 5 out of 10. I think he, to be honest, it could have been lower, if I'm being honest, because it could have been lower today, because I think the reason why it's a 5 is because we drew. And that's literally the only reason why I've gone just about with a 5. But my issue is similar to what Lee says. I think we need more options in terms of what we need to do.
I think the injuries coming back will help.
Of course they will, because it makes the bench stronger and you can bring different people off. But I get that. But in terms of 2/3 into Bournemouth's half to their goal, we ran out of ideas quickly. And I think what Eddie Howe needs to do is work out different options in terms, especially at home. How can we get the best out of Almiron, Fraser, if Maxi's still injured? I'll mention now, Wilson was very close to getting into the squad, but wasn't deemed fit enough. It was more of a risk if he was going to play every day. So he'll be back against Fulham in 2 weeks' time.
Judging what you've seen, would you start Isak over Wilson? Because I'm not still convinced yet.
Yeah,
even though he's got 2 and 3.
He's got 2 and 3. I think again, we have to just
we have to
get a few more games into him. I agree with I stand by what I said 2 weeks ago. You can't just judge Isak off 2 games or 3 games. But if you look at the 3 games, he has scored 2 goals and good penalty. A penalty is a penalty, but you still need to put it in the back of the net. The goal.
I do agree on that point, because there's a player like I used to watch Man United a lot. Van Nistelrooy used to have a stinker for 89 minutes and he gets you a goal.
And that's what people look at, though. They look at the paper the next day and they go, Isak goal, Isak won. So I think that has to be one thing we have to address. Again, the midfield for me today, and even against Crystal Palace, when Bruno's not in that midfield, again, we struggle. But hopefully he doesn't pick up an injury on an international break. And then, maybe it might be a bit more beneficial. But look, it's not a disaster today. It's borderline a disaster, but it's not a disaster.
It's how you look at the season so far. I think that's what it's very 50-50 in the comments there. For me, I'll see the positives. Yes, there's too many draws, I do agree with, but if you win 2 games in a row, people aren't going to think people are going to then say it's 1 defeat in 10.
Yeah, I get.
You know what I mean?
I get that, but like I say, I'm more optimistic because you look at the draws that we've had. I know the Palace and Bournemouth draws we should have picked up more points. I get that, but we still picked up a draw against Man City. We still picked up a draw against Brighton, who've been brilliant.
Should have got a draw against Liverpool.
Should have had a draw against Liverpool. Got a draw against Wolves, and that was a last minute. So it was a good point in the end. I still think the run of games that we've got from now till November.
I'll forget it otherwise.
From now till November, I still think are very, very difficult games. But finally, 40, what would you like to add?
No, I was just touching the point, your point about the injuries. I think the injuries are going to mask over the fact that Eddie needs a plan B. Really do. Like, we could have, Wilson coming back, ASM's coming back, but it's still not going to change the fact that he's not got a plan B and he's going to get found out sooner rather than later.
What is the plan B? What is the plan B when you've got a full squad?
No, but
but that's the question.
We need to plan without a full squad.
But I think you're answering it yourself, Johnny. We don't know.
No, but I'm saying, what do we think it is? That's the question. What do we think?
I need to plan for situations like this because, again, there might be a time where Isak's injured and then Wilson is the only guy up top and ASM's, because ASM gets injured quite a lot as well. We always harp on to Wilson being injured, but ASM gets injured quite a lot. So, again, we need to be planning for situations like this. This is the reason why these managers and coaches get paid the big bucks. And this is where they need to be creative and think, okay, I haven't got him. Maybe I could do this or maybe I could do that. Maybe if set pieces, I put Dan Burn up top and we aim for Dan Burn every single time because he's 6'7" and he towers over everyone else. But at the same time, it's the same thing over and over today. And it's the same thing over and over in Crystal Palace. This is where, I'm sorry to jump onto Eddie Howe, but this is where he needs to be earning those mega bucks.
What helps is it's papering over the cracks if there's another performance like this in the future. But having John Joe Shelby back in that lineup pushes Willock back to the bench.
Exactly.
Having Wilson in that lineup pushes Isak, or the other way around. Doing a like for like might work because the game's tiring, people are tired. You might get away with it more often because you've got a better squad. Because let's face it, the top squads don't really change the formation.
Don't
say Pep, don't say Jurgen Klopp. It's like for like because the caliber is similar coming in. We don't have that. So if you take out John Joe Shelby, that's a 40% win ratio. You take out Callum Wilson, there's 10 goals a season, even though he's injured. And you take out Bruno, and then you take out ESM. That's 4 players that start week in, week out on normal. But it's papering over the cracks. But if it'll be interesting. We've got a fully fit squad, and we're having this debate in, say, just before the World Cup with Drew, whatever, and he's got a fully fit squad. Then you can say, okay, you can't use that bench anymore as an excuse.
I get that, but you look at those players that you've mentioned there. Obviously, Bruno was back today, which is slightly different. But if you've got, say, a Dan Burn or Botman or Cher, depending on who you prefer in that centre defence, we'll have that debate again. But one of them's going to be on the bench with Jamal Lascelles. There's 2 good Premier League defenders on the day. You've then got Willock, Sean Longstaff, maybe Joe Linton, maybe Shelby, whoever you want in that midfield. It's a little bit stronger. Going forward, you might have Fraser and Miggy on the bench. Maybe Isak goes on the left for one game. The options are there. It's a stronger bench, and it's not Jacob Murphy. It's not Javier Manquillo. It's not Chris Wood. You know, it looks a stronger bench, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. There's been another goal at Tottenham, and it is just trying to look from one football. Yeah, it's 3-2 to Spurs. Bentancur for Spurs. So they're going to be joint top with Manchester City if it stays the same. But I think we'll leave it here. It's been really, really interesting. A good debate once again with Forley and for Lee. Been good conversation in the comments as well. So make sure you give this video a like. And if you can subscribe to Newcastle Fans TV, that'll be greatly appreciated. There'll be videos throughout the international break. The next game's not till Fulham on the 1st of October. But yeah, be interesting to see what happens there. My thanks to Forley, my thanks to Lee. We'll see you all very soon.